The Last of Us, The Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, it is safe to say that a strong single-player campaign can help etch a video game title into history. While multiplayer experiences and sandbox titles can give you incredibly fun times, there's nothing quite like grabbing a controller and delving right into an epic story with only yourself for company. But you know what? Sometimes video game projects get overlooked, and we're going to give them their official time to shine now. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 criminally overlooked single-player campaigns. Number 10. Mafia III. The Mafia series is, in many ways, a more organised version of GTA. Now that's less a comment on gameplay or structure and more a reference to the Mafia-based crime syndicates themselves. The games have done well, but the third really deserves more of a spotlight. Mafia III has you playing as a Vietnam veteran named Lincoln Clay, who lives in the fictional city of New Bordeaux. He's forced to return to a life of crime after he and his adoptive family are brought into a conflict with the local mafia, and you control Lincoln as he seeks revenge against the organisation and builds his own criminal empire. Now, while the game is far from being perfect, it brings a lot of elements together to complete a beautiful picture. The story is fantastic with some unique documentary-style cutscenes, plus the character development for Lincoln is definitely solid, especially in the explorations of racism across 1960s America. Additionally, the combat is, while sometimes repetitive, satisfying as all hell, especially those brutal finishes. Now, the game didn't score great reviews thanks to a lack of technical finesse, but you know what? Its awesome campaign will leave you very satisfied. Number 9. Mirror's Edge. Now, free running in a video game is not usually the point. Often it's just a means to an end, playing a part in the traversal of the world but never acting as a main feature. Dying Light, Assassin's Creed, Prince of Persia and more have you using it, but Mirror's Edge will make you scream parkour, parkour, hardcore parkour, because it is the biggest selling point. This 2008 game puts you in the very bright red shoes of a runner named Faith, who lives in a near-future city ruled by a tyrannical government. You control her in first person, using her impressive free-running skills to uncover a grand conspiracy and try and save her sister's life after she's wrongfully accused of murdering a politician. Now, while the story isn't exactly deep, it's the sheer intensity and fluidity of the parkour that mesmerizes and brings everything together. A decent player can break through levels at blistering speeds, with the campaign acting as a brilliant way to constantly test yourself with new settings, characters, and challenges. The game did turn some heads and was even able to produce a prequel years after its release in the form of Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Still, not enough people remember this utterly unique single-player experience. Number 8. Knack II. Now, the release of the first Knack game was, well, pretty disastrous, despite what Dunkey will tell you. It was a launch title with the PS4 and became the butt of many jokes thanks to its mediocre gameplay and desperate attempts to establish a new PlayStation mascot. But you know what? The sequel? Well, it's not half bad. Knack II saw the return of the titular character, creating a stronger experience all round. It ironed out many of the first game's biggest kinks, such as poor checkpointing and harsh difficulty, and it also increased the scale, adding more to do and lengthening the already quite generous runtime of its campaign. This general mix of platforming and beat-em-up combat was nicely enjoyable in its simplicity. Tragically, even though Knack II does a much better job and has a rather enjoyable campaign, the stink of the last game was still lingering. Unsurprisingly, this fell into obscurity, but it is still worth a play if you ever want a chunky platformer with some rather cool ideas and an off-kilter style. Number 7. Assassin's Creed Unity. Now, the release of Assassin's Creed Unity is one of the most infamous in all of gaming. In many ways, it was the predecessor to the modern trope of releasing a game before it's fully finished, as seen in the likes of No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk 2077, Fallout 76, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and many, many more. And yet, if you give this one another go-around, you might actually be surprised. You see, Unity takes players to France during the revolutionary years between 1789 and 1794. It puts you in control of an assassin named Arnaud, who attempts to uncover the secrets behind the revolution and gain revenge for the murder of his adoptive father. There is also naturally a 21st century framing device, but nobody really cares about that. Now, it is by no means a groundbreaking story akin to the best of the Ubisoft franchise's portfolio, but Unity is far more playable now and nowhere near as bad as you remember, and for this, it deserves a lot more positive attention. The title's simplicity harkens back to the franchise's old days, providing a very tight and compact assassin experience. The Paris setting is also beautifully depicted, and the stealth combat mechanics are deeply enjoyable. Looking back, it's really an encapsulation of what made this series so awesome. Number 6. Fable III. Fans of the chicken-kicking, binary choice-making, Peter Molyneux-faking Fable series are often quick to label this game as the worst in the franchise, and truthfully, the conclusion to the trilogy certainly does have its problems, like the reductive combat system and playable start menu, but you know what? The campaign definitely has a lot to offer. You see, Fable 3 puts you in the shoes of a prince who is the descendant of the central hero from the previous game. You get drawn into a royal rebellion to stop the malicious onslaught of your brother King Logan, and this adventure sees you travel across the land of Albion, making important allies. However, you soon come to learn that power definitely has consequences. And spoilers for the game here, although it's likely you already know, but one of the biggest surprises in Fable 3 is that it goes past the point that a regular story would. Once you conquer the throne, you'll have to run it and soon learn that many of the optimistic promises that you've made along the way must actually be broken for the greater good of the kingdom. You can say what you want about Fable, but the ambitious story, rich voice cast, varied locations, classic Fable humor, and fun side quests don't get the credit they deserve. Hopefully the upcoming reboot can certainly grab more acclaim. Number 5. HalfLife Alex. Now, anyone who expects the announcement of Half-Life 3 in 2023 is rather optimistic to say the least. Still, there is a solid modern title that, while not being a third installment per se, is a great return to Half-Life. Sadly though, barely anyone has played it. Half-Life Alex lets you shockingly play as Alex in the prequel to the second game. However, unlike the previous titles, this first-person shooter was developed exclusively for Valve's Vive VR headset. Shooting mechanics are tight and seamless level design captures the magic of the original Valve games. The campaign is also a 12-hour-long delight that delivers a great story with some excellent character development for our titular heroine. Of course, part of what caused people to give this one a miss was its VR requirements, which meant that you needed to shell out a pricey sum just to play it. Gabe Newell, the president of Valve, called the game a forward investment, linking the motivation for making it more towards the technological future of the industry as opposed to creating a highly profitable Half-Life game. And that's all well and good, but there's no denying that the majority of fans, well, they kind of missed out because they couldn't afford it. Number 4. Immortals Fenyx Rising. Whenever a seminal video game releases with a whole new approach to gameplay, it's easy to assume that you're going to get a few clones. Well, if The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is the original, this game is its mini-me. But Immortals' is rich campaign full of action, creativity, humor, and mythology is way more knock out than knock off. Immortals Fenyx Rising is an action-adventure game set in ancient Greece, told through the lens of a conversation between Zeus and Prometheus. The latter describes the tale of Phoenix, a mortal who must battle the monster Typhoon in order to save their home. In order to do this, your custom hero ventures across the land, searching for the legendary gods of Olympus. One thing the game certainly deserves credit for is its sheer creativity and humor. It approaches its structures like Breath of the Wild, letting you venture into whatever region you want with multiple recognizable deities to meet and save, and each provides their own hilarious story, such as Ares, the god of war, being turned into a rooster, or Athena being transformed into a child. These segments come together to form a grand adventure that you will sink hours into, with a visually bombastic open world and plenty of satisfying physics puzzles as well. And while the game did well enough, it flew under most people's radars when it came to the story. Number 3. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Call of Duty is a franchise that either gets you hyped to the max or will make you groan. This Activision series was the industry's undisputed king in the early 2010s, but as the franchise continued, fans grew fatigued, forcing the developers to work harder in order to maintain their attention. So they decided to go to space, and everybody hated it. The release of the first trailer for Infinite Warfare was met with frustration from consumers, even leading it to becoming the second most disliked YouTube video at the time. But if you check out the comment section of that video now, you'll find that many people are taking those dislikes back. The campaign has aged like a fine wine, leaving many to change their tune. Infinite Warfare's campaign sees you fight for the solar system in an action-packed sci-fi adventure. The writing and acting are surprisingly solid as you take control of an American Marine named Reyes battling against the evil settlement defense force, which is led, lest we not forget, by Game of Thrones' own Kit Harington. Additionally, the space combat is pretty damn fun, giving you plenty of things to do, such as hacking, piloting spacecrafts, and even optional side missions. Sometimes a series' overhype and exposure leaves you acting as a harsher critic than usual, but it's worth picking this one up now again just to see how you feel about it now. Number 2. Max Payne 3. Max Payne 3 takes the titular hero out of his New York setting and to Brazil, where he works as a private security contractor for the Branco family. However, he's soon forced into action again after a street gang kidnaps the youngest, Fabiana, and the story follows Max as he attempts to get her back. While many lamented the loss of the neo-noir aesthetic, the change of the game's location and brighter style managed to reinvent the property without ruining its integrity. Besides fresh visuals and strong character development, Max Payne 3 also thrives with its excellent use of the bullet time mechanic, giving you copious kill cams and excuses for cinematic flair, all of which is so thrilling to see that you never get tired of it. The game sold well, even becoming the highest grossing in the Max Payne series, but its higher budget made it a commercial failure, which is honestly unfair, as this Rockstar developed title still deserves an audience today. And number 1, Titanfall II. As a sequel to a game that was mostly recognised for being a decent multiplayer exclusive FPS, Titanfall 2 really had no right to be as good as it was. It's genuinely one of the most engaging and fascinating first-person shooters ever made, and yet it received all of the attention of an unsupervised kid at a playground. Titanfall 2 follows Jack Cooper, an infantry rifleman turned Titan pilot, and his Titan BT. The pair are forced to fight against the Interstellar Manufacturing Corporation as they seek to launch a superweapon that threatens planetary destruction. And the campaign features everything from mech battles to tight shooting and even to bloody time travel, bringing all of the fun exoskeleton mechanics and impressive free-running of its predecessor. However, as developers Respawn apparently thought of a series of set pieces first before then writing the story around them, Titanfall 2 ups the ante in every respect. This highly ambitious story feels massive in scale and never gets boring, thanks to its varied locations and changing mechanics. Plus, the relationship between Jack and BT, well, it's incredibly charming. And it is criminal how overlooked this phenomenal and easily recommendable game has been. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 criminally overlooked single-player campaigns. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, where it's @RetroJ, but the O is a 0, or you can swing by FGS or the Future Game Show, where I do all of my gaming content going forward. Hope to see you over there, my friends. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hope you're treating yourself well with love and respect, because you deserve all the best things in life, alright? Like love, happiness, and success. So go out there and smash your life goals today. I bloody believe in ya. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.